Hello and welcome, everybody. It is another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz, back at it with you to talk some college football conference realignment, all the latest updates on what is going on with the Pac-4. We're going to hear a little bit from Oregon State's athletic director. We're going to hear a little bit, unfortunately, from Arizona State's president as Michael Crow still continues to talk. But as you guys can see, we will start today with the situation with Stanford and Cal, which continues to be the main holdup in figuring out exactly what is going to happen with the rest of this Pac-4 group, right? We are trying to determine what is going to be the fate of that conference, whether or not it reconstructs itself as the Pac-12, whether or not it siphons everybody off into the Mountain West, et cetera, et cetera. And poor Oregon State is one of the schools sitting there just waiting. So some good insight from Scott Barnes. A lot of good stuff, I think, in Jon Wilner's mailbag this week that was very, very interesting about where the Pac-12 may be headed. And one thing you guys may be interested in, viewers of this channel, a little self-assessment from Jon Wilner about his reporting throughout this entire process and what exactly he got right and got wrong. I will say I agree and disagree with parts of it, but we'll see if we have time to get to that. But that's the basis of what I have here on the outline today. I guess let me make sure that I'm not missing anything because I feel like I did put a lot into this. I got the Michael Crow piece. We've got Stanford Cal, like I talked about. Yeah, I would say that is pretty much what we have today. So you guys know the deal. If you have been here before, you can control the content tonight on the show as well. You can do so by submitting a super chat, a donation, in other words, with your question or comment. We're already over 100 people here in the chat, just a couple of minutes in. So I will not have time to monitor everything that is going on. But if you want to be a part of the show tonight, you can click the $ below the chat box where it says either chat or say something. Not entirely sure. I don't see it anymore on StreamYard, but below the chat box, you can attach a donation to your question or comment. Make sure that it gets in on the live show and it will be read. I now have a full column where I can see every single super chat that is levied my way. So that is what I will be monitoring here throughout the show. It is a way to make your voice heard and support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12 and conference realignment content on a week in, week out basis here on this channel. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do consider subscribing on this channel. I'm live Wednesdays and Sundays. Give you some other content in there as well. And all college football, college basketball, conference realignment related content from a Big 12 perspective here in the heart of Big 12 country in Kansas City, Missouri. So appreciate all of you that support the channel. A totally free way to support the channel is to just give me one click. Just click that like button. That is all I need from you. That will help me out. Leave a comment in the comment section before, during, or after as well throughout this video. That would be much appreciated also. Even if you hate me and you're telling me how much you disagree with me and my takes suck and all of that, if you did that, I would be very, very pleased, very happy. You can also support the channel through Venmo. If you are not watching this live, you're catching it after the fact. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo is another way to support the work that I'm doing here on this channel. So I believe that's all the housekeeping we have today, folks. I am ready to get rolling. I see Ron says, yay, no banner. I'm actually just realizing I forgot the banner, Ron. I don't know. Does everybody hate the banner that just tells you how to get your question or comment on the show? There we go. There we go. There's the banner. Does it bother anybody else? I saw somebody was bothered by the countdown. I don't know how to win with all of you guys. You know, I get yelled at for being late, but that at least lets you know it's coming. The show's coming. Adds a little production value. I like the 30-second countdown, but you know, don't have to do it. Just let me know what you think. I'll take all opinions into account here. We'll start with Snake before we get into Cal Stanford and the details from Jon Wilner, who proposed the theory that Stanford and Cal may try to leverage their way into the Big Ten, which seems like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but we will get there in just a moment. Snake says, who has the number 1 2024 recruiting class again? Well, I assume that this is a reference to UCF because I know that UCF has been recruiting up a storm. And I know that last I saw, UCF did have the best recruiting class in the Big 12 for 2024. So congratulations. Hey, I mean, I have said many a time, like long-term potential here of UCF, I think is very high. I think they're also the most poised of any of the newcomers to have success this upcoming year. I think like sneaky big game in the Big 12 could be the game in Manhattan with my Wildcats on, I believe it's September 22nd. I believe that is the date for that game. Anyway, first conference game I know for K-State, and they'll be hosting UCF, and that could be a very sneaky game. I mean, look, Gus Malzahn knows what he's doing. He has recruited down in that area in the southeast portion of the country, being at Auburn and the SEC. Already has a lot of talent there. I think they are poised to make a nice little splash into the Big 12, and they're getting the juice of the Big 12 behind them to a school that's already been on the come up and enjoyed a ton of success around here. So it makes all the sense in the world that they would be able to recruit the way that they are recruiting right now. It also doesn't hurt that Florida, Florida State, and Miami have been a little down lately. Now, I know that Florida State appears to be poised for a pretty big year this year, but Florida and Miami still have been down, and Florida State is just now getting back on the come up. So it makes sense. Look, I am bullish on UCF. I am bullish on the future of UCF. So congratulations, Snake. We'll see how this all plays out in year one. What's going on, R Web? Lovely to see you as always, my friend. R Web says Stanford has a little leverage and Cal has none. Conference X takes us or no. Well, see, that was my thought, R Web. That was my thought. Let me read you what we have from Jon Wilner. So the question in Jon Wilner's mailbag was, why haven't Fox and the Big Ten offered membership to Stanford without Cal? The Big Ten has had an odd number of teams for many years after Penn State joined in the early 90s. This would leave an open spot for a better program than Cal. I actually think that's a decent question. His answer was this. Stanford clearly has more prestige and media value than Cal within the college sports space, and some believe the Big Ten is waiting on Notre Dame before it moves to the Cardinal. Once the Irish agree to give up independence, they would join the Big Ten along with Stanford. Now, I mean, that I think everybody agrees with, right? That would make sense. If you're getting the financial boost and the juice of Notre Dame there, then you can appease the presidents and bring in Stanford. We know the presidents love Stanford, the academic reputation and the academic prestige that would come along with that. It seems like a nice little win-win for everybody, right? It says, however, the additions of Washington and Oregon might change that calculation. For scheduling purposes, a 6-team Western Arm makes more sense than a 5-school construction. 3 sets of travel partners in the Pacific time zone would be more efficient than 2. It all depends on Fox, which controls the Big Ten's media rights and thus directs the expansion strategy. So you've already got 4 teams there, Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. He is saying 6 makes more sense than 5 if you're going to do the Western Arm there for 3 sets of travel partners. But this was the key paragraph, and this is what I thought was very interesting. Jon Wilner says, we suspect, and he's saying we at the Pac-12 hotline, he says, we suspect the Cardinal and Bears would use their invitations from the ACC, if they ever come, to leverage offers from the Big Ten, their preferred destination. The prospect of the Bay Area schools joining a conference aligned with ESPN could be the only way to lure Fox out of its hole. So he is saying that if the ACC, obviously tied in with ESPN, were to decide to offer spots into the ACC for Stanford and Cal, that they could then take that and be like, well, look, we're about to go run over to an ESPN conference here in the ACC. Wouldn't you rather have us, Fox, in the Big Ten? But I'm not exactly sure how that works, man. I'm not exactly sure how that works. I don't know that would be like, why would that be enticing enough for Fox to decide to bite? Like, we've kind of been hearing that the TV networks seemingly are stretched a little bit thin right now with the money just in general. And then plus with all the realignment that's happened already, I don't know why they would need to be really stretching for Stanford and Cal here at this point. I would think if the ACC levied an offer, that the Big Ten's response would kind of be like, well, now you have less leverage. Like, the leverage here seemed to be that Notre Dame in the ACC was like politicking for Stanford to get into a conference. Notre Dame has been trying to stick its neck out because, one, they do have the selfish motivation there to preserve their series with Stanford. They don't want to see Stanford go to FCS or have to drop football or whatever it might be. They want to continue playing them. They want to continue having that series. But even beyond that, they're doing the whole stuffy, like, oh, we're academic elites, and we must ensure that Stanford, with their $37 billion endowment, is not left at the kids' table. You know, I mean, just assume that that's how Notre Dame talks. Is that how Jack Swarbrick always talked? Anyway, that whole conversation has been going on. So it would seem to me to be like Notre Dame and the ACC would then have given an offer, and the Big Ten would just be like, okay, cool. you guys are all right. Like, the kids are all right. Stanford will have a place. We're okay. We can like wipe our hands of this. We don't have to worry about it. That, to me, like, we've seen this public kind of outcry for Stanford and people being incensed that Stanford and Cal could possibly be left out of this, even though their own hubris caused a lot of the downfall, and they have tons of money to take care of the problem anyway. They're not going to be hurting for funds like an Oregon State or a Washington State would be. We've seen all of that, so wouldn't everybody just be like rejoicing that the ACC extended the olive branch and the offer, and it saves the Big Ten from having to dip into their pockets to do that? I don't see where Fox. Now, maybe Wilner has some information that I don't have, but I don't see the logic in Fox deciding like, hey, ESPN's going to add Stanford and Cal. We're in a lot of trouble. Like, it's Stanford and Cal. I mean, are you guys, like, I'll just ask you guys in the chat, like, are you guys excited to watch Stanford and Cal football right now? I can just tell you a little anecdote. I had on Twitter, my algo pumped out a little Cal football video for me randomly. It was mildly funny. I'm trying to remember what they were doing. They were like walking off the practice field and giving goofy answers for something. And I kind of watched it for like 10 seconds. And then I was like, it's Cal football, man. Like, I don't know who any one of these guys is. It was celebrity lookalikes. That's what it was. They were doing their celebrity lookalikes. So it was something that even without knowing any of the players, like, I could get into and find a little bit entertaining. But it's like, these are Cal football players. Like, no offense to Cal, I suppose, but like, I do not care. Like, I don't care. I don't know any of these guys. I'm not going to need to know any of these guys throughout the season. Like, I have zero interest in watching those games. I just can't imagine that Cal and Stanford would be some sort of draw to where Fox would get jealous. Like, Fox is going to get a wandering eye and be jealous of the Stanford Cal situation by going to ESPN. I apparently must be missing something here. Yeah. I'm seeing our web. Guys, I promise I'm getting to the rest of the super chats, but just because I saw our web pop this one back down there, but our web says, oh yeah, Fox needs rabid Bay Area schools. Exactly. Like, what are we doing here? Fox already has SoCal. Nobody cares about Stanford and Cal football in the Bay Area. It does nothing for you. I know I've told you guys this a million times. You're getting sick of it. I went to the 2016 K-State Stanford game to cover it. Really good Stanford team with Christian McCaffrey. Nobody was there. There were like 8,000 people there. And then me and the tree on the sideline. I do like the Stanford tree. That's why I used it in the picture today. Big fan of the Stanford tree. But I don't know. Stanford tree seems to be about the only fan of Stanford football right now. So anyway, I don't totally understand it, but that is what Jon Wilner is saying. So I appreciate you giving me the outlet there to bring that up, our web. I guess we'll continue to monitor this. I will say one thing that is interesting is that at one point, I know like Jason Scheer had tweeted, what was it? Scheer tweeted that we may get resolution over the weekend, basically on the ACC with Stanford and Cal. And I have not seen anything to that end right now. So it appears that saga is still ongoing with the door cracked open to the ACC for Stanford and Cal. Have not seen anything definitive on that front. So I guess we just continue to roll on with this, and it would have to continue to make the folks in Corvallis and Pullman a little bit more uneasy that this is dragging out. And I do hate that for them. Again, I will continue to publicly reiterate my stance on this. I will waste, and I think everybody should waste zero time feeling sorry for Stanford or Cal. All of that energy should be directed toward Oregon State and Washington State and hoping that they come up with the best landing spot that they possibly can. And by the way, shout out to Wazoo's social team. I retweeted this at one point over the weekend, but they did an awesome video. Just basically, it was showcasing that they've still got pride in their school and a sort of little humble brag and a nudge to the TV ratings that have actually been pretty kind to Washington State. We saw those TV ratings get thrown out throughout this process. Washington State actually rates pretty well on TV. I would think that like the Mike Leach era and being in Pac-12 After Dark has a lot to do with that, but use it, brand yourself, use that. It was basically just a big defiant middle finger to everybody that is leaving them behind in the college football world. And it was excellently executed. I thought it was tremendous content, and it is exactly what Washington State and Oregon State should be doing right now. And then going and drilling everybody out on the football field this fall. That is the other thing that I definitely hope for them. So anyway, kudos to Wazoo, kudos to Oregon State. I'm pulling for you guys. I will get to in a moment some quotes from Scott Barnes, who is the athletic director at Oregon State. He was quizzed in a really good interview by The Athletic about what is the future, what's happening right now, where does he place the blame. Lots of good stuff there from Scott Barnes, who's in a pretty unenviable position right now for the Beavers. So anyway, we will get to that. For now, we get to Nathan. What's up, Nathan? Appreciate you being here, Nathan. Thank you for your support of the channel. Nathan says, Bama fan here. You are a fantastic presenter. Well, thank you. As I stumble over the words trying to say that. Thank you, Nathan. Much, much, much appreciated. You are one of my favorite college football channels. Roll Tide and good luck this season. Hey, Nathan, my friend. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I would say good luck to Bama, but you guys don't need it. You know, I don't think I really need to do that. And considering the last time I watched my squad play an actual football game, I was in the Superdome watching them lose by 25 to Bama. I think you'll be okay without it. I think you understand, though. I do. I sincerely appreciate that, and it was an honor. It was an honor to get to go to New Orleans to play the Sugar Bowl against Bama, and we'll always have that first quarter. I had a Bama fan getting after me a little bit on social media for making fun of Mizzou, saying pick on somebody your own size, and I was like, well, I am flattered that you would, a Bama fan, tell me as a K-State fan to pick on somebody my own size, aka, hey, look at what Bama did to you. K-State in the same sentence as Bama. I like that. I dig that. And we'll always have that first quarter and a half. Never take it away from us. You never take it away from us, Nathan. No, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your kind words. Always appreciate that. If you guys, anybody else, very much welcome to hit that $ below the chat box to attach a donation to their super chat and tell me how awesome I am. You are fully welcome to do that on the show. Fully welcome to do that on this show. I would absolutely welcome that. And if you do think that I am a great presenter, I would appreciate it if you just click the like button on the video. That would be wonderful and much appreciated and totally free for you. So it's a win-win for everybody. What is the Michael Scott? It's a win-win-win. Wins all the way around if you would do that. Will, what's up, Will? Thank you for being here, Will. Thank you for your support of the channel. Will says, I'm still confused why rebuilding the pack with 4 AAC and 4 Mountain West teams is still considered an option by some. The exit fees would be over $100 million. Well, it's definitely complicated. It is definitely complicated, and I think like one of the paths that has been kind of discussed with that would be to do part of it for 24, part of it for 25, because of those. It's the Mountain West exit fees here that are really the big bugaboos for everybody. And we know that because we talked about the San Diego State saga when that was coming down to the wire, how their exit fee doubled from around 17 to around $34 million. And if you're going to take anybody else from the Mountain West, you're going to have to be dealing with that too. I just think like all options need to be on the table. And even if it is a longer term play, I think you just have to be willing to do that and patchwork it together for a year and then make it a little bit stronger after that, if that is going to be the case. The problem here is like not everybody can be SMU and just say, hey, well, we'll forego 7 years of TV revenue from a conference because we have that loaded of donors who are willing to make that move, not only can, but are willing to make that move because we feel like this is the time and we have to do this or else we're going to be left behind forever. Not everybody is strapped like that. Fully understand that. They can't do that. And I think it's a good hurdle that you raise here to where it is that they're trying to go. And the problem, Will, for everybody there is that you don't know what's going to happen with Stanford and Cal. We're kind of back to the original part of this. We've just been in this waiting game with them in the ACC and them, I suppose, in the Big Ten, like keeping open an outside shot at the Big Ten. And until there is resolution there, nobody can really move forward with trying to figure out the answer to the problem that you're raising. How do you do the exit fee things? Will that actually be? I mean, another question, Will, is going to be, would that scenario actually be good enough for Mountain West teams to leave? Like, is the Pac-12 branding and maybe trying to recoup like an auto bid into the playoff? Like, but I'm dubious that would happen. Are those sorts of advantages enough to actually lure you to come over? And what do you think that a TV deal would actually look like in that scenario? You're leading me right into some of these Scott Barnes quotes. So I may, if you don't mind, Will, just go ahead and hop on into that because you have led me right there because he addresses some of these things. All right. So here's your Here's your weekly Pac-4 update. Scott Barnes, the athletic director at Oregon State, did an interview with The Athletic, and he says, just a general quote here to get things started. He said, at some point, the emotions sort of settled down, and folks started to understand that we're going to find a path forward. We're in this spot where I think the waters are less murky than they were a few days ago, but they're not completely clear. So we're waiting for the waters to clear, and that'll help us understand that path forward. Next paragraph in the article says, there may be one emerging into that path as Barnes expressed the desire to rebuild some version of the league that just fell apart. So quite obviously, best case scenario for Oregon State, Washington State is that Cal, Stanford decide to stick around. They don't get an invite. Maybe it's really not decide, but they don't get an invite from the Big Ten or the ACC, and they are left with no choice but to try and rebuild the Pac into whatever it might be. And more importantly, a level of belief that the four teams left behind, Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, and Stanford, could be the driving forces behind it instead of taking an every school for itself mentality. Quote, a real shot, but it won't be without difficulty, Barnes said. But yes, I do emphatically believe that four of us as foundational members can build something back that is real, tangible, and sets the course for the future. So he gets asked this question, can you shed any light on what the options are? What's out there for you guys? Barnes said, for us, our priority, again, is keeping the Pac-12. We think it's in the best interest of our student athletes and our fans to build back the Pac-12. We've inserted ourselves into every conceivable conversation, every feasible conversation at the Power 5 level, and I would say that our best option is rebuilding the Pac-12. Obviously, group of five options are out there, but that's not our priority. All right, no surprise there. Next question that comes to him is just in terms of where you're going to be on TV, where you're going to be seen. I assume that's the next part that comes after figuring out if the Pac-12 is salvageable. And Barnes said, I'll put it this way. It's thinking through the governance structure of the NCAA and the Pac-12, understanding our rights, assets we hold very soon, securing a media consultant to assist in navigating that landscape, and at the same time, simultaneously thinking about continuing to discuss potential expansion partners. All right, so I mean, some of this, I will say that some of this gets into like Barnes just kind of being in like coach speak sort of mode here. But that is a great question with this too, because if you are talking about, I'm going back to the question that was just asked a moment ago by Will, if you are going to try and entice Mountain West teams to jump, you'd have to, I would think, have some assurances that like a TV deal is going to be significantly better than what they're getting in the Mountain West right now, which I think was like $5 million last year. So I would assume that it probably would be if you are going to have Stanford and Cal involved in this thing. I would think that almost that alone probably gets you above that figure. But what did we learn from the Pac-12? The landscape is not great right now to be getting a ton of money for your TV contract. So it would be nice to have some sort of assurance for those schools to be like, hey, look, we could get 11, we could get 12, whatever it might be. I think Jon Wilner had it penciled in right around there when he did his projections the other day that we read on the show. He was thinking like maybe around like 10, 11, 12 million a year. If they were going to go down that route with that sort of a conference, that's what you could expect per team on the media deal. So it would be better. It would be better. You would have the Pac-12 name, you would have the Pac-12 branding, but you are also hopping into a conference that maybe lacks some stability still, because even if Stanford, I mean, here, I hate to do this to Oregon State and Washington State, man, but like, even if for now, Stanford and Cal don't get the invite that they want from either the ACC or the Big Ten, what's to say that wouldn't change? You know, I mean, you're always going to, then Oregon State and Washington State have to really be peeking over their shoulder at Notre Dame moving forward, like, because we know the deal. If Notre Dame ever decided to leave to go to a conference, or more aptly, if Notre Dame were ever forced to join a conference, they're probably heading to the Big Ten, and then Stanford would be right in line with them, and then you're dealing with another situation where the conference could fall apart. So there are a lot of issues here. I mean, and it is to the point where even expansion candidates, I think, would have to really do some research and give a long, hard look in the mirror to like, all right, what do we want to do here? Like, what is in our best interest long term? Is it really to jump into this rebuilt Pac-12 and try to make that thing happen? Very complex, not a lot of great options right now for Oregon State and Washington State. How soon, realistically, do you think you'll have these answers? Another very important question, another one of those like $64,000 questions staring Oregon State and Wazoo in the face right now. Scott Barnes said, I think very soon we'll know about the fate of the four, and then we can go from there. If you want to look down the line farther, the other things that we've got to focus on are the practical things, which are putting a schedule together for our programs. Yeah, another big part of this, like you got a season next year. you've got a schedule for next year when everybody's scheduled out to 2035, you know? He says football, as you know, many of the games that we scheduled are locked into the mid-2030s. We're doing all that background work right now on availability of games, understanding sports sponsorship applications for other sports as we align ourselves potentially with other partners. All those things are being sorted out, and we're seeking answers to questions while we're waiting for the waters to clear. And then there's a laughs. It's literally in there. It's in the prompter, so I'm going to read it. Laughs. I've said that way too many times. I can understand how he feels that way for sure. Then he gets asked directly about Cal and Stanford. Obviously, there's been chatter out there about Cal and Stanford and the ACC. How confident are you that they actually are aligned with you in Washington State to rebuild this thing? And Barnes said, when I say the waters are clearing, that's certainly one aspect of what I'm talking about directly. Very soon, we're hopeful that there's finality on whether or not that'll happen. That in and of itself gives us clarity on moving forward. That really is a key question that needs to be answered. Yeah, it is. That is the key question that needs to be answered. And, you know, keep saying I feel bad for them. If Cal and Stanford do come trudging back and have to rebuild this thing, you know that they're not real enthused about that, and you know that their leadership has been a huge problem as to why the Pac-12 failed. I would just, again, be a little leery and worried about what that's going to look like moving forward. But you also know there's no way that it happens without them. So you're stuck kind of between a rock and a hard place there with all of that. All right. Matthew wants to talk some real football. What's up, Matthew? Thank you for being here. Appreciate your support as always, my friend. If you want to be like Matthew and join the show tonight, you can solicit a super chat. Send me a super chat. You can click the $ below the chat box. You click that $ below the chat box. It will attach a donation to your question or comment. We'll make sure that it gets read. We're up over 400 people in the chat here, so I cannot keep up with everything. That is the way that you make your voice heard on the show tonight and support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12, conference realignment, college football, college basketball content here on this channel on a weekly basis. If you could also like the video, I would much, much, much appreciate that. A totally free way to support the channel. And you can support the channel on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4 as well if you're not here with us live right now. So Matthew says, less than a week away from real college football games, will you be paying more attention to Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah games this year, knowing they're joining the Big 12 next year? Yes, I absolutely will be, and that is twofold. Really threefold in the case of Colorado, because one, Dion, right? Excuse me. How dare I? Coach Prime. I'm sorry, Coach. Did not mean to upset you there. You know, he wants to be addressed as Coach Prime, not Dion. So my fault. Coach Prime makes a big difference there for Colorado. I mean, they're opening the season with TCU. I'm very much looking forward to watching that game. That will be a fascinating watch. Then beyond that, it's going to be the last year of this league as currently comprised. So that makes me really want to watch it, because I would imagine the tensions and the emotions are just going to be running so damn high. I can remember the lead up to the 21 season in the Big 12 after Texas and Oklahoma had announced that they were leaving for the SEC, and thinking like, man, this is going to be crazy. We had the Robert Allen quote like on this channel, I believe, where he said, you know, like Oklahoma fans should probably bring a helmet to Bedlam. There was a lot of pent-up anger and frustration that you knew would be coming out then, and we're probably going to see that in the Big 12 this year with your last shot at Texas and Oklahoma for everybody. Then I was like, okay, you know, get my popcorn ready for this. So I very much want to see it from that standpoint for the Pac-12. Like, what's the vitriol going to be like for USC and UCLA on their way out the door, as well as Oregon and Washington? A lot of reason to watch there. Then I will give the Pac-12 this respect. They're going to be a fantastic league this year, at least on paper. Heading into the season, they've got some quality depth and some real quality teams up at the top of the league. Like, first of all, I'm going to say them first because they deserve it right now. Like, Oregon State is a top 25 team for sure. They should be able to compete at the top of the league. We know about Utah. They've won the league the last 2 years. We know about USC. They've got the most dynamic player in the country in Caleb Williams. Oregon is Oregon. Washington with Michael Penix, again, one of the most dynamic players in the country. They are certainly capable of winning the league. So it's just going to be a fascinating watch this year anyway. And then if you want to sprinkle in a little bit on top, I guess I've gone like fourfold here in a way. You want to sprinkle a little bit on top? Yeah, they're coming to the Big 12, so I will absolutely be watching them more, no doubt. Tried to do the same with the 4 incoming schools to the Big 12 this last year, pay a little bit more attention to them. I will certainly be paying a little bit more attention to the incoming schools this year. But once again, there was already plenty of reason for me to be doing that. And I'm a college football junkie. Like, even if this thing would have been on Apple TV and they were having to go around doing the Girl Scout cookie thing, selling subscriptions, like, I don't know. It would have depended on the price, but I would have been pretty tempted. Like, if it were this year and that was how I had to watch the Pac-12 was to buy an Apple TV subscription or something, like, I might have had to just bite the bullet and do it because there's going to be some really entertaining football played there. But I'm not your casual, and even I am having to think about it, which that was the problem with the whole deal. Just nobody tell Michael Crow, okay? Nobody tell Michael Crow at Arizona State that I just said that. Just let him continue to think it was a great deal and continue to talk about it. And boy, talk about it, he will. Talk about it, he will. Nathan, we got Nathan in here again. Appreciate you, Nathan. Thank you. Nathan says, just like Florida State is potentially using a loan to leave the ACC, could the 4 AAC teams in the Pac-4 do the same for the AAC exit fees for the Pac rebuild? It's a really interesting question, Nathan. That's a very astute and good question. Because I don't know. Like, we're at a point where, like, you know, I'm a guy with a communications degree from a great land grant institution, but communications degree from a land grant school in Big 12 country, truck stop country. Like, you start getting into private equity and like how that works and how you can finance things through that. Like, I mean, we're getting a little bit above your boy's pay grade here. So I wish I could give you like a better answer on how that works and how Florida State might actually be pulling it off and how that would translate here to this league. I don't know. But I will say, just judging by the comments of Scott Barnes there, it would seem that they are probably looking into every single option they possibly could be. And right now, the general landscape in college football is that everybody is looking into every single avenue that they could possibly have, which, of course, is not limited to SMU saying, and Stanford saying, hey, we'll pay our way for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever you want. We won't take a cut of the TV money just so that we can be a part of one of the major conferences. Like, that's where everybody's at. They've reached a level of desperation and feeling like it's now or never. So every single possible thing seems to be explored right now. But I don't have a good answer for you on how realistic that is, how that would work, if there would be interest, like how I don't know. I don't know. But that's a really interesting theory. I appreciate it, Nathan. Good question. LA Hornfrog. What's up, LA Hornfrog? Appreciate you, man. Says, hey, JK, love the new look of the show. Go Frogs, go Big 12. Thank you, LA Hornfrog. I love it too. Shout out to my friends at StreamYard for helping make this happen, making it look that much better. I'm feeling way better about it. You know, look at all the change we've had here. We've got a new league. We've got a new Big 12. I've got the new background going instead of just the light switch. For all your light switch jokes out there, we've got the StreamYard going where you can see more. We're stepping our game up here, folks. We're stepping our game up. Juan Sex Fiddy-Wan. All right. Juan Sex Fiddy-Wan. Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Very creative on the name. I can get behind that. Says, hey, John, as a Utah fan, the Bay Area schools should be treated like they have the plague. ACC is crazy for potentially giving them voting rights. Yeah, as a Utah fan, I would be pretty upset with the Bay Area schools. Like, every sort of postmortem article that has come out about the Pac-12 has not reflected very well on the leadership from the university presidents on the Pac-12 side. And I think, look, Michael Crow has definitely outed himself as somebody who was not very helpful at all in the Pac-12's cause. And I think most knew that already since he was so buddy-buddy with Larry Scott. But beyond that, I mean, Stanford and Cal are definitely in the ivoriest of towers, and they're the ones that would have been out of touch with what the value of the conference was, what they really needed to be doing, the urgency of the situation, like all of these things that we've seen become problems, and that we now know were real problems within the league, even from the most ardent Pac-12 supporters. A lot of that can be traced to the Bay Area schools there. I would imagine that has to be infuriating. I mean, in Big 12 country, Juan Sex Fiddy-Wan. Of course, for us, it's been Texas that we've dealt with for so long that is very, very much similar to that. And Texas, I mean, a part of the frustration is that they don't actually earn it on the field either. They have been such underperformers for the last almost 15 years that it is very frustrating to have that, you know, this big bad bully that's going 7-5 every single year. Stanford and Cal, now I know it's probably a little bit different because Stanford had a really nice run there for a while. But I mean, I don't know. The last 5, 6, 7 years, they've been just absolutely dreadful. And then their leadership is like dragging you down as a conference, and it's ruining the Utah situation, which I will extend this level of empathy for Utah fans. Where, like, I understand why you guys are so passionate about the Big 12 v Pac 12 thing and didn't really want to come here at first because you were winning the Pac 12. It was a great league that was held in high regard for a long time. Well, you were just sitting there waiting for your chance. You finally got in. Now you're there. Now you're beating everybody. Of course, you don't want it to fall apart. And basically, it's falling apart because of the SoCal wing and the Bay Area schools being a large part of the ultimate downfall of the league now, too. So I get it. And once again, as a league that has been forced into kind of a similar scenario with Texas for a very long time, we know how you feel. We know how you feel here around Big 12 country. Cat fan in Huskerland, a.k.a. Daniel Osborne. Thank you for being here, Daniel. As always, I appreciate you, my man. Says the only exciting Stanford Cal game was 1982. Other than that, who cares? Go Cats. That is so true. That's a good comment there, Daniel Osborne. You know what? In fact, Daniel, I will level with Cal and Stanford and say I will take everything back that I said about them, about not feeling bad about them, whether or not you should want them in your league, whatever, whether they would have leverage. You know what? If Cal and Stanford play every single game, just like the 1982 game, and we get the band is out on the field every single time, then I'll take it back. Think about the TV draw that would be. The band is out on the field. Maybe we could mix it up sometime, and like the Stanford tree gets to run out on the field. Maybe he goes like Woody Hayes on somebody. If we did that, Stanford and Cal football would be watchable, and there would be a little bit more TV value. But until that happens, unfortunately, we're just going to have to roll back the highlight reel from 1982 and not really feel very good about the TV value that they're bringing to the table. So excellent point, Daniel. Appreciate your thoughts as always. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support of the channel. And now I'm going to have to go watch Cal Stanford 1982 on YouTube, the ending of it, as soon as I get done with the show here. Bill, what's up, Bill? Bill G in the house. I appreciate you, Bill. Bill says, thanks for the continued updates. Good luck during football season. Thank you, Bill. Good luck to your squad, too. Not sure who that is. Don't see. But good luck to your squad as well. And I'm very much looking forward to K-State kicking off the season in, 13 days? We're 13 days away. We've got week 0 coming up this week. We're now at the point where college football will be on every Saturday for the next, what did I say? It's 16, 17, 18 Saturdays, something like that. We have made it through, people. We have made it through. So, Bill, cheers to you. Thank you for your support of the channel. Thank you for being here. J-Rod, what's up, J-Rod? J-Rod, thank you. Thank you for your support. J-Rod says, as much as I'm ready for the new season in the Big 12, I'm actually wanting to fast forward for the next season for the new Big 12. Love your show. J-Rod, I can understand that. Thank you for your support, by the way. I think we all have to have some level of that, right? Like, you just got a shiny new toy. It's kind of like I would compare it to if you ever knew a Christmas gift that you were getting and you knew that your parents had it, but you couldn't actually open it yet. Probably a rare situation. Well, maybe not that rare. I would usually, when I was a kid, I feel like I had one big thing that I would ask for every year. And most of the time I got it. And so a lot of times you might know that it's there and it's December 20th. We'll say it's August 20th right now. We'll say it's December 20th. And you're like, man, I got to wait 5 days to actually get this. Can't I just have it now and open it up and start playing with it and not have to worry about the wait? That's what's happening right now. You've got these 4 new gifts that you get to open up. You get to go play those games. You get to go see those teams, but you got to wait an extra year to go do it. But the patience will all be worth it. And you know what? In the meantime, J-Rod, we get a new look league this year anyway that should be very, very fun and exciting. So not all bad, but I do get it. We want the ultimate. Everything coming in next year. I want to see the Holy War. I want to see the Holy War as a Big 12 conference game, and we will have to wait a year for that. Warrior Pride 65. Thank you, Warrior Pride 65. Appreciate you as always. Warrior Pride 65 says, can you fill me in on that truck stop conference joke? I hear that so many times, but I want to know for certain the context instead of assume. Yes. Hey, chat. I would imagine the chat probably has helped you out as well. But truck stop conference, that was a derogatory term. I don't know if it we saw it a lot from Utah fans there for a while, but did Canzano, chat, help me out. I'll flip over to the regular chat here. I don't know. Did Canzano or those guys actually go to the truck stop level? Were they using that in articles. I know that Canzano ventured into using 12 and on. I don't remember if he was using the truck stop conference. It was basically just on Twitter. We saw a lot of people, heavy usage within the Utah community, but just Pac-12 people on Twitter in general. They started calling the Big 12 the truck stop conference because there are a lot of truck stops in Big 12 country. As somebody who for 10 years traveled everywhere K-State football played for a living, I can tell you I stopped at many a truck stop on the way to Texas, Oklahoma, Iowa, wherever it might be. So just the idea that you're in the heartland of the conference with a bunch of truckers driving through and truck stops everywhere is a derogatory term for, remember those ivory towers that we were just talking about with Stanford and Cal. Everybody up in the ivory towers in Palo Alto, they think, a bunch of losers in these podunk towns where there's just truck stops, everywhere. So derogatory term from Pac-12 country. I think that's the best I can give you as far as an explanation goes. I see Dale Donut says the Utes were the ones going full blown truck stop. Beavers were not. Yeah, I didn't see a ton of it from like Oregon State, Washington State, maybe a little bit, especially once it got real dicey there down towards the end. It seemed like Utah was fueling a lot of that. Warrior Prize 65, would Colorado versus Arizona State be the best week 0 game, if not denied? I think so, because I think your only real other contender is, I'm going to bring it up just to make sure, but I think your only other real contender for that spot would be Navy Notre Dame. And all the guys, got to level with you. I'm not up to date on my Navy football this year, like the preseason expectations for Navy, but they're 3 touchdown underdogs, basically. We've got a 20.5 point line for Navy and Notre Dame. So yeah, I would think that would be the your best week 0 game. I'm only looking at ranked. That's a part of my problem here. San Jose State, USC. I think we'd rather watch Arizona State, Colorado than that. Hawaii, Vandy. I mean, not going to lie, Hawaii, Vandy actually sounds kind of fun. But the other games that we have, Florida International, Louisiana Tech, no. UMass, New Mexico State, no. UTEP, Jacksonville State, no. So, yeah, I don't, my schedule will probably, I will definitely watch Navy Notre Dame. I might tune in to take a peek at San Diego State if I can. Yeah, it's FS1. Get that. SEC Network for Vandy, Hawaii. That sounds like a lot of fun. And then, obviously, I would like to watch Caleb Williams if I get that opportunity there. So, yeah, I think so. Warrior Pride. I think so. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody weighing in there. If you would like to be a part of the conversation here tonight on the show, you can give me a super chat, attach a donation to your chat by clicking the $ below that chat box. It will pin your chat up for me, make sure that it gets read, puts it in a separate column for me here on StreamYard, and make sure that your voice is heard here on the channel tonight so you can help control the content and support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12 content, conference realignment content, college football, and college hoops, all here on this channel, all on a weekly basis. And I appreciate all of you who do chip in there. What did I just see that I was going to... Oh, Andy said truck stop conference was from Bill Walton. Okay, that's interesting. Would not shock me at all, Mr. Conference of Champions. Is anybody have we gotten an interview with him? Canzano, I think, did an interview with him at one point, right? Has anybody checked up on him? Do we have a reaction from Bill Walton to what has happened here to his beloved conference? I'm not trying to rub it into Bill Walton. I've got no real issue with Bill Walton, but I do wonder if anybody has actually checked in on him. Let me continue real quick here with a little bit more from Scott Barnes, the athletic director at Oregon State. He was asked, this is the question. Okay, so the question from the Athletic says, in the category of it's easy for them to say, Washington wants to preserve the Apple Cup, Oregon wants to preserve the Civil War. Is that possible? Is there a way forward to maintain that rivalry across the board? And it was a 3-word answer from Scott Barnes, and I like this. He said, to be determined. Not going to give you much on that at all. And look, that's the correct response. If you're one of those schools, it's like, look, bleep you, rivals. Okay, we'll figure that out later. Right now, we've got a whole mess to figure out all because of you. So we are not concerned with that. Next question, though, the follow-up question was, are relationships irreparably damaged here, or is irreparable never a thing as long as there's enough time involved? And he said, nothing's irreparable. I believe that. Anything you're dealing with in life, you need to move on from it. as it relates to scheduling, we're going to look at putting our best foot forward in terms of our student athletes and fans, and that's a priority. Oregon's not a priority. It's our fan base. It's our student athletes and putting them in the best position for future competitions. Good answer. Good answer, man. Like, not going to burn any bridges totally, but also not going to go out of your way to be like, oh yeah, it'll be great. We'll play Oregon. Sure. Fine. No, you'll figure it out on your own time. I think that is the correct stance for Oregon State to be taking there. So I can appreciate that. If you're curious about who he blames, who does Scott Barnes blame? Who does the Oregon State athletic director blame with everything going down? He was asked, if you're choosing the main reasons that drove this, and this being the demise of the Pac-12, what would those be? He said, when you're in a leadership position and you report to a board and you report to others, you need to understand on a daily basis how people are feeling and what they're feeling. And sometimes you have to be strategic enough to pull that out of folks because the information doesn't come readily. He said, I don't think Pac-12 leadership was in touch with how folks felt. Look, we can talk about the pause and waiting later to do a media rights deal, the climate change, the bottom fell out of media companies and tech companies for a bit. You could talk about the UCLA decision was late. Should we have gone sooner? There's a lot of things we could talk about, but ultimately you need to be in tune with your members and understand the landscape very, very well. To do that, you need to be out in front of it, and you need to be connected to media partners, to your board, to others, to really understand at a personal level where things sit. And I don't think that work got done, in my opinion. I mean, yet another example here of like everything that was said on this channel for a long time about George Kliavkoff. Seemed like he overpromised, was setting people up to fail in these media interviews where they were saying like, 2 weeks, it's coming soon, and it never would actually come. Just didn't seem like there was great communication there, not a great feel for the membership. And then on top of that, we now know just not a great feel for the landscape of this TV deal, the networks, and how all of this was going to transpire for the league anyway. So we've seen plenty of times now through reporting that George Kliavkoff seemed to be pretty out of touch there. And Scott Barnes reiterated that, the athletic director at Oregon State. So anyway, I appreciate him opening up to do that interview. And I would wish my best to Oregon State and Wazoo in all of this. All right, Glenn, what's up, Glenn? Glenn asks, is there any way the Pac whatever number could lose their Power 5 designation? Well, so complicated here because I don't know that like Power 5 in the traditional sense that we're talking about really matters all that much anymore. The biggest thing that matters is, would you get an automatic bid to the playoff? And all the talk right now, like I listened to the Yahoo Sports college football podcast, which I would highly recommend, over the weekend. And the vibe there seemed to be like, yeah, I mean, this is going to change. Whether or not it's just an extra at-large instead of the Pac-12 getting an automatic berth, or the SEC gets what it would really want, which is just the top 12 teams and everything is at-large, I don't know. Certainly in Big 12 country, we would be hoping for still the auto bids for at least 4 of the conferences, but I don't think it's very likely that Pac league, whatever it might turn into, would keep an automatic bid to the college football playoff when that comes back around, because Sankey's a shark and he's going to throw his weight around as much as he possibly can. And I don't think that they would be willing to sit around and just be like, oh, that's fine. You lost your entire league. You lost Oregon and Washington. Like, yeah, we'll go ahead and give you guys an automatic berth into the playoff. I'm not sure that that's how that's going to work. So I think that's going to be a big crux of the issue and a lot of the problem there. That would be my guess, but I don't know. I don't know. There are others that would have better insight into that, probably, if there is any legit chance of it. And if you are in that position, you're one of those schools, that's what you're desperately trying to save, is you're just trying to save a path to the playoff. You know that your revenue is going to be down. You know that the amount of TV money you will get will be down. But at least if you still have an open spot to the playoff, that would conceivably open you up to a little bit better, recruiting, for instance, if guys feel like they actually have a shot to go play for it all. Technically, in that scenario, that can make a big difference. Juan Sex 51 back in here. What up, Juan Sex 51? From an outsider perspective, what are the best rivalries in the Big 12? Need to be informed for next season. Good question. I would say, well, first of all, I keep saying I think the best rivalry in the new Big 12 is going to be the Holy War. Kansas State. I'm sure you're pretty aware of that. We're unfortunately losing Bedlam. Honestly, Oklahoma State had a couple great ones because I love the Oklahoma State-Texas games too. But you're losing that. K-State, Iowa State, Farmageddon is a pretty spicy one these days on the interwebs anyway. Baylor TCU is a very good one. Baylor TCU, especially with the success that those programs have had here as of late. I think that is an awesome rivalry that you need to be paying attention to in the new league. I don't know, guys, help me out. What am I missing here in the new league? That would be my starter list, but it's hard to do these things on the fly when you're not looking directly at the list of all the teams in the conference. So I am going to bring that up. I would also say Territorial Cup, Arizona State would be worth paying attention to for when that comes into play here in the new league. I don't know. Will we start to get Houston and any of the Houston and Texas Tech, Arizona and Texas Tech? I know people have floated out there as a rivalry within the new league that could be a really cool one to watch. But yeah, I think I would kind of leave you with that sort of a list there. Tech and Baylor. But TCU, Baylor, KU, K-State, KU, Iowa State. That's probably like the short list that I would give you of some rivalries there. Cincinnati, West Virginia. I'm looking at the chat now. I'm seeing you guys. Well, TCU, K-State, yes, has been, for the last year, because both teams were good and played twice and played in the Big 12 championship game and played a really close game. TCU, K-State's been pretty spicy on the interwebs, on the internet there with some arguing back and forth. Cincinnati, West Virginia, I think has potential there. Obviously, with them being closer geographically. Hell, before too long, we may get the backyard brawl into the league if the ACC is going to implode and Pitt comes. So that could be another one there too. But hopefully that answers your question to give you a little bit of a starting point. That's going to be a part of the excitement of the new league is how do some of these develop. Baylor and BYU have played quite a bit lately, so that could turn into something. It definitely could. There are a lot of things to keep tabs on here. UCF is they'll have to develop a rivalry with somebody, right? UCF is so brash. They'll make somebody angry and get somebody riled up and play a bunch of really close games back and forth with somebody. And I would just have to imagine that UCF is going to be a part of some very fiery rivalry at some point. If you ask me like 5 years down the road what the rivalries will look like in the league, I would imagine that UCF is going to be a part of that in some form or fashion. Okay. Aglist. What's up, Aglist? Appreciate you as always, my friend. Aglist checking in says, John, as unlikely as it might have been, thank God my Jayhawks didn't make a jump to the Big Ten. We're proud to be a part of the best conference, number 1 in basketball, and could be number 2 in football soon. Rock Chalk Jayhawk Allen. Hey, Allen, I appreciate that attitude from you, my friend, because not a lot of your Kansas brethren shared it for a while there when there was I was going to say flirtation. I would just say I've always equated it to catcalling, Kansas catcalling the Big Ten and trying to get their way in. Obviously, with the help of one erroneous report through the media that really fired people up right after Texas and Oklahoma had left. Shout out to the imminent to the Big Ten moment. That obviously did not happen, and I think that was a tough pill to swallow for a lot of Kansas fans. But yeah, now, look, for Kansas basketball, you're doing just fine. Doing just fine being in the Big 12. I think that basketball is going to help earn the league some extra money here before too long, whenever Yormark can get things decoupled, and you'll be even closer financially to the real big boys there. And football, man, we'll just see. We'll see where that continues to go. Big Ten, well, they do have a lot of crapola down at the bottom. They are adding Washington and Oregon, USC, UCLA. Well, we'll strike UCLA from the record, please, if whoever is taking the official minutes for this chat, if you could just strike UCLA from the record there. They're adding USC, Washington, and Oregon, which are 3 really good programs to go with Ohio State, Michigan, I suppose, Penn State. I don't begrudgingly say that. Wisconsin. There are going to be some pretty good teams up at the top of the Big Ten there that'd be hard for the Big 12 to compete with. But I think for sure you've got your shot at being the 3rd best football conference out there. So not a terrible place to be, especially compared to where it looked like this thing was going to be headed for a long time. So it's a refreshing attitude that you have there, my friend. I do appreciate that. Okay, let me give you. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save some of this content that I have because we have not made it super deep into my outline. There was a lot of stuff from Jon Wilner's mailbag that I want to get to. There was another. We never got super into the LA Times details either. I may combine those for a video about stuff still coming out about the Pac-12 here. But I'm going to give you like a 5-minute warning here. If you have something you want to beat the buzzer, make sure to get your super chat in now. You can do that by clicking the $ below the chat box to attach a donation to your chat. It will pin it. It will ensure that it gets read. It will make sure that your voice is heard here on the chat tonight. And it's also a way to support the work that I'm doing to bring you this content on a weekly basis. Could not do it without your support, and I immensely appreciate all of you guys who do help support the channel. This was a detail that I thought, like, man, this is just another one that would kind of make my stomach turn if I were a Pac-12 fan after the fact. But the question was asked to Jon Wilner, what grade do you give George Kliavkoff for his first 2+ years as Pac-12 commissioner, which is a pretty hilarious question. The second question that is attached to it as well is, how does Kliavkoff still have a job? Which, also fair question. Wilner says, let's address the second question first. He remains employed because the conference needs someone to handle day-to-day operations for the upcoming competition year, which, that makes sense. Also, they would owe him around $10 million in a buyout. So if you're already going to have to pay him, make him take care of the details on a day-to-day basis just to keep the thing running, keep the thing afloat for right now. That would be why he still has a job in the short term. He says Wilner says he is not heavily involved in strategic matters for the remaining schools, according to sources. Stanford, Cal, Washington State, Oregon State are plotting their paths individually and collectively without him. But then he says, in terms of job performance, the grade is obvious. It was an F. He got an F. But I did like this detail that gets worked in there. He says, in our view, Kliavkoff is a deeply decent individual and smart business executive who was poorly suited for the task assigned by the presidents and the search firm of record, Turnkey ZRG. Poor Turnkey ZRG, man. If only Turnkey ZRG could have been Endeavor. All hail Lord Karen. All hail Lord Karen. But this detail jumped out at me. It says the athletic directors who know the challenges on the front lines were not heavily involved in the hiring process of George Kliavkoff. Yet another blunder by the presidents. How a collection of super sharp individuals responsible for multi-billion-dollar universities could make so many bad strategic decisions over so many years would make for a fascinating case study. It would and does, and we have lived that fascinating case study. We have absolutely lived that fascinating case study. But, man, you're not going to let the athletic directors be involved in the decision to go get you a commissioner, especially when you're the Pac-12 and you have the largest group of least interested university presidents in athletics. You don't have near as much of university presidents being super involved, which you see a lot more like in Big 12 country. You got to let the ADs be involved in the process of who you're going to hire. Just so much hubris and arrogance all across the Pac-12 really killed them. And just so many details that come out that would just make me want to vomit if I were a Pac-12 fan, like one of the Pac-4 that's still remaining there. That is yet another one. They did not really get the athletic directors involved there when they were hiring George Kliavkoff, who was just overmatched. It's really about as simple as that. Brett Yormark was out here playing 4D chess. Kliavkoff is playing checkers. And yes, I know the Pac-12 propaganda machine would tell me, well, they still were that close to getting something signed until the Big Ten. Okay, we'll see. There's disparity in the reporting there. And Jason Scheer was much more right throughout this entire process. And he would tell you that Arizona was gone with or without them and that it may not be quite that simple, but I digress. Either way, we know how it all worked out, and Kliavkoff was definitely overmatched. Admiral Snack Bar, one of the other great names here. Admiral Snack Bar, appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Admiral Snack Bar says, one upside of the Big Ten rating the Pac is now they have more than just 3 quality teams. You think the new guys can make some noise? Yeah, you're kind of hitting on something I just said there. At least now you're getting more concentrated power up at the top. That should make it a theoretically deeper league. At least I would think so, unless these programs are going to take a big step back now that they're playing in the Big Ten. But I think they'll probably be fine because you still have so many Purdue, Indiana, Northwestern, Nebraska, Illinois rolling around there at the bottom of the conference that are teams that have just been bad. Mediocre to bad. You have a lot of that going on. So they'll still be able to feast on plenty of those sorts of squads there. make some noise. I guess it depends on how you define make some noise. I think USC is going to be phenomenal with Lincoln Riley. I think the world of him. I think he is excellent. Oregon, that's still a little bit more of a question mark to me with Dan Lanning. I think he's proven to be pretty good, but I don't know if he's like that dude to do it consistently and compete against like Ohio State and Michigan up at the top of the league right now. And then who am I missing? Washington. Washington seems to be, I mean, Kalen DeBoer, like that seems to be a pretty good marriage. Seems to be things are moving in the right direction, but I do feel like I need to see consistency with that before I would buy in that they could go in and totally really compete with Ohio State and Michigan right now. I mean, I will begrudgingly give Michigan like the respect of, hey, they've done it now in back-to-back years, winning the thing. I've got to give them some respect and say that they are somewhat on Ohio State's level right now. But I think really it's about like, can you legitimately compete with Ohio State? But like, could the new three go in and be earning playoff spots in that league? Yeah, of course, absolutely, absolutely. I think that, and USC, I think, is definitely capable of winning that league for sure. Will says, I appreciate the UCLA slander, just USC's little bro. Yeah, I mean, look, nothing super personal UCLA, I suppose. I don't really have much of I'm pretty neutral on UCLA, but I just did not want anybody to take it like I was trying to lump them in with like football powers being added to the Big Ten, because they are far, far, far from that. Not a football power. J-Rod, what's up, J-Rod? For next year, do you prefer divisions or some other format? I just prefer protected rivalries. I prefer having 3 protected rivals and then mix the schedule up after that. We have not talked about this a ton, but like SMU got dropped from TCU's future schedules. They're not going to do the battle for the Iron Skillet. I know there's been some speculation about, hey, does the Big 12 now go to 10 conference games? I think that's something that I would imagine would be explored by the league to help add some extra value to your TV contract. So we'll see on that, I guess TBD, but I would think that would make some sense. And then, you just go three games, 3 teams that you're going to play every year and mix it all up outside of that, make it as enticing as possible for TV. So that's my thought. That's my thought, J-Rod. I don't think you'll see divisions, maybe pods, I suppose, but I think the future is probably just 3 protected rivals, and then everything else gets mixed up. LA Hornfrog. What's up, LA Hornfrog? LA Hornfrog says, when I was a frog, Houston TCU was charged. When I was a frog, Houston TCU was charged. If I'm missing this, if I'm missing something, you just let me know, LA Hornfrog. I'm not entirely sure where that's going, but I'll read it one more time for everybody. When I was a frog, Houston TCU was charged. Okay, I see what you're saying. When you were at TCU, Houston TCU was charged. I got you. So Houston TCU, you're saying has potential to be a nice rivalry. I'm all about it. I did see someone else in the chat say like Houston's got to step their game up basically before that happens, and I would agree with that. Like Houston's going to have to come out and prove it. But if they could, I think the Texas schools, maybe a little bit of animosity there that they're, the league is having to kind of lift somebody else up in state that will be competitive recruiting wise now and has more of a recruiting advantage being in the Big 12. Maybe a little animosity there could help out and spur that on and make it a better rivalry. So I got you, LA Hornfrog. My bad. I'm reading comprehension, not my strong suit tonight. Greg, what's up, Greg? Thank you, Greg. Greg says, thanks for the show. Great job and love your new format. Very professional. Let's get the season going. Go Cats. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your support and the kind words. I love all of you guys that are telling me how great the new layout is and everything, because it makes me feel better for those efforts to finally get it done. I should have done it a long time ago. I will admit I should have done it a long time ago. I was worried about how it would integrate with YouTube and the super chats and all of that. It's flawless. It's great. Shout out to StreamYard. Not a sponsor, could be. Get in touch with me, StreamYard. But no, you guys have been awesome. Makes this thing a whole heck of a lot better. So with that, I think that's what I got, guys. I think that's all I got for you. One last call. Please go like the video if you have not yet. Subscribe if you have not subscribed to the channel. I am live Wednesdays and Sundays. I'm giving you extra content in there as well. Great community that we have here that's been growing like crazy lately, getting close to that 18,000 subscriber mark. So tell a friend, tell a family member, spread it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, whatever your social media app of choice is. Go ahead and tell everybody about this channel, link it, post it, all that stuff. Let's continue to make this bigger and better. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to support the channel and you didn't catch this live. All of your support is much, much, much appreciated. So thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. I should have some more content coming at you early next week, flowing into a live show Wednesday, unless something changes. But stay tuned. Take care. I will talk to you all soon.